Hey, it's Russell Dickerson here. It's Friday at CRS.
Listen, you don't want to be a selfish bastard. We call them SBs. Don't be an SB. Make sure if you have a New Faces ticket that you're not going to use, turn it into the registration desk. There are so many people who would love to have that seat. Just don't be that bastard.
Don't forget, today at noon is the Big Machine Lunch featuring FGL, Lady Antebellum, Daniel Bradbury, Peyton Smith, and my girls, Avenue B.
And don't forget at 3 o'clock this afternoon, Carrie Underwood will be taking the stage for the CRS Artist Interview sponsored by BMI.
Hey, tonight it's all about New Faces. We got the New Faces cocktail reception at 5:15 featuring Cree Harrison, and then after that it's on to the big memorable event.
Special thanks to the show's sponsors, St. Jude Children's Research Hospital and ACM, and performances powered by Live Nation.
One last thing before we get the session started, please make sure you silence your cell phones. And don't forget to fill out the survey about the session right afterwards. It's on the CRS app, and you got a chance to win a free registration for CRS 2021.
Good morning. Oh, thanks, Mom. Sorry. Just kidding. Hi, I'm Erica Farber, and what a treat it is to be at CRS 2020. We're going to talk about the future, which is important to all of us. I know how I feel every day I wake up. It's a good day. So joining me this morning on my far right, Bill Hendrick, who is everything Cox Radio. And yes, so Bill, we're so thrilled you're with us. He's the Executive Vice President of the Media Group. Bill, welcome. Next to Bill. Yes. Another great broadcaster, and interestingly enough, her first time at CRS.
Busted.
Busted. The chairperson and CEO of Hubbard Radio, Ginny Morris. And next to me is Caroline Beasley. No, just kidding. Caroline was supposed to be with us and had a conflict in her calendar that came up pretty quickly, but we are very fortunate that joining us in this discussion this morning is someone who is near and dear to all of you, and certainly the CRS, because he is the head of the CRS. I think you're also the head of the CMA right now, but Senior Vice President for Programming, Town Square Media, Kurt Johnson. So Kurt, thank you for pitching in. So we're here to talk about the future, and yes, we will take questions, and Judy is in the front row, and she's going to be feeding those questions to us. But to have a group of individuals like this, we don't all have the opportunity to get to know you on a personal basis. So I thought it would sort of be fun to start with a little bit of a round robin so people would get to know a little bit about you. So I'm asking you all the same question. We're going to sort of go quickly. Bill, we're going to start with you, but what are you reading right now?
I bought 2 books recently, David Baldacci and Brad Thor. They are sort of international espionage. It's mindless reading that just lets me pass the time. I love both books.
Great. Ginny?
Where the Crowd Sing.
Go.
Yeah, it's great.
Kurt?
The Ride of a Lifetime,
Ooh.
the Bob Iger book.
Nice. Kurt, what are you watching on television right now?
SNL, the debates,
Okay.
town halls, all of that.
Ginny?
Season 2 of The Sinner.
Oh.
My wife hates this. I absolutely love America's Got Talent and World of Dance. If you don't watch World of Dance, it's unbelievable what these people can do. Absolutely. And I'm a little behind, so I'm catching up on Longmire. I'm into season 4 of Longmire.
You and Ginny have the dance thing in common. That's sort of an inside joke. Sorry. Favorite movie, Bill?
Original Born Identity.
Well, that's a pretty good one, but recently I have to say Little Women. Loved it.
Ford versus Ferrari.
Oh, good one. Favorite podcast?
The Tim Ferriss Show.
Okay.
22 Hours.
Don't have one.
Okay. So if you could think of one country song that describes or reflects your company, what would it be? Bill?
I'll go back to Winona no one else on earth, because I don't think there's a company as good as ours out there, except Ginny, we are so close to each other.
I love it. Love it. Ginny?
We had a lot of interaction in our company about what this would be. We were tempted to jump genres and go with Burning Down the House. But at the end of the day, we settled on family tradition, and this is how we roll.
Nice. Kurt?
We are going to jump genres. Travis Scott, Sicko Mode.
Oh, all right.
We love it.
All right, well, we're here to talk about the future, but being in radio today is pretty important, and I thought a great starting point would be, what do you think radio should look like today? So, Bill, I'm going to start with you.
I don't think it's fair to define what radio should look like, because different companies clearly have different ideas of what radio should be. And I think we've diverged very dramatically recently. I believe for what our company is, that we should look like an extremely local media business, that we should program our music, do our news talk, and research our news talk stations for the needs of the local marketplace. We should have local sales teams in those markets helping businesses succeed and grow into the future and compete against outside forces that are very difficult. But I don't think that's the only answer for what radio should look like. I think it's the path that certain companies have to take in order to continue to win, and others are choosing other paths.
Ginny?
Well, I agree with everything that Bill said, but I think that radio needs to be the tent pole of the brands that we are responsible for nurturing, that have lots of other areas where they live, where they connect with listeners, where they help advertisers grow their businesses, where they help local communities stay, strong and addressing challenges that each individual market faces. But I think it's a local business at the local level, at least for many of us. And I think if we double down on that in all the different ways that we connect with both listeners and advertisers, we've got a great future.
Local for sure. At the same time, realizing and transforming from being a local radio company to being a local marketing provider across platforms. And various companies are doing that in different ways, but at the core of it is local radio, and always will be. And our differentiator is our great DJs and talent and the product that's provided locally. And at the same time, the reality is that it's moving digital. Follow the money. Nationally, 7 or 8% of the ad spend is on spots, and 52 cents of every dollar is on digital. So you've got to follow that, and I think that our local programming needs to follow that and provide local content across all those platforms to aggregate people to monetize that.
So there's a theme here that came out of all three of you, and that was the word local. And obviously, you're all very bullish on local. It's no secret that sometimes it's easy to get caught up in the noise, if you will, of business decisions that are being made by other companies or different industries, and it can be very distracting. So we've learned a new word, dislocation, and I certainly can understand why business decisions are being made. But all three of you were very bullish on the business of local, and can you just talk a little bit about that?
The business of being local?
Yeah.
We have a unique opportunity in any kind of business. A local bank can't do this. A local physician's practice can't do this. We have the ability to entertain, build, and serve local communities. And that's not just necessarily a geographical area. It's the communities of the different formats. It's the communities that are online listening to you but are still local. It's your employee base. We can get out and make a difference in communities by doing good things. You hear so much about St. Jude here. Well, beyond St. Jude, all of our businesses do fantastic work building up our community and making our community feel better about itself. There is no one else, none of your friends, no one you know has the opportunity to do that and profit while doing it. And we don't do it for the profit, but we are a for-profit business, so it has to go hand in hand. And I just think it's really cool that we get to wake up every day and go to work and brainstorm, how can we do better things to make our community feel better about itself, feel engaged, and we're the ones that make that happen. I think that's the best job in the world.
I agree with everything Bill said. I think that super serving your local listener almost always means local talent, but I think making sure that the highest, best programming coming out of the speakers, out of the phone, out of the smart speaker, whatever it is has got to be, the standard. I think local is critically important, but I also think that at the same time we need to make sure that we are excellent every time that that mic is open, because the competition is so robust in so many different ways. Clearly, the ability to super serve communities from a charitable perspective, or bringing the messages of local nonprofits or people in need is certainly an honor that we take very seriously. And growing the businesses that advertise with us, that invest in our brands, that's a pretty important part of building community and sustaining community and growing community. So we take that seriously as well.
It's really about people, and both of you mentioned it. I don't want to follow Bill anymore, by the way. He has all the right answers, right?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so anyway.
Can I ask a question?
You may.
Is it okay if I move my chair around? I'm facing a big green wall here. There's a whole room of people over
Turn
here.
it around, man. Turn it around.
Well, you won't be able to see
Yeah,
them.
go for it.
There we go. Thank you.
Well, Bill's getting situated. It's really, it's about the people. You have to invest. If you're going to be local, you're going to need people there. And we invest in people. We staff positions. I do a lot of recruiting for our company. It's very exciting, the people that we're bringing on board. And we have some people who have been in major markets before that are now choosing lifestyle and choosing to be in a smaller medium market where Town Square operates. And also people that want to get on board with maybe coming from companies that didn't have a strong digital investment, and they want to get on board with that. They know they should, and as we're doing that, we're providing opportunities for people to grow, and they see that as the future of their career. But again, it all happens, to your question, from the local level. That's radio's differentiator. It's the audio medium that's local.
You bring up such an important part, and that's people. Ginny, all of us want to make sure that we are guaranteed a career, and I know there are no guarantees. But from your perspective, what are you looking for in people, skill sets, managers? What can we learn? What can we do better to make sure that we can almost guarantee that we will continue to have a strong career in this industry?
Well, that's a small question. I think what we try and do at our company is empower people to take chances. Our good friend Jeff Smellion used to have a slogan that he didn't want anybody working for him who was on the BOCA plan, who was on their way to the beach to retire, and that's a concept that's alive and well in our company. In an environment where finances can be challenged, where we've got new competition, it can be challenging, of course, to invest in green space and things that are new and different, but we look for people who have that appetite, who have that desire, who have that courage to try things, and also the wisdom to fail fast. Because, to quote Drew Horowitz, you got to try stuff, and when it isn't working, you got to know when it's time. But we have to keep trying, we have to keep evolving and reinventing what we do.
Before we move on to Bill on this question, I'm sure there's a lot of people in this room who come from the content side or the on-air side. And what do you say to them? What are you looking for? What do they need to be focused on to make sure that they can accomplish the needs and the goals of your company?
Is this me?
Yes, Ginny.
I think passion, commitment, hard work, and again, a willingness to take personal chances with what they do behind the microphone or when they're in front of an audience. But that passion is number one, I would say. Passion, creativity, hard work, commitment, love of the business.
Bill?
So on that one, I would say that you should understand from your boss's perspective what is important to them, from the company's perspective, what is important to them, and be great at something that's important to your company. You can't sit and expect your company to appreciate what you're great at if the business is changing and it's no longer as important as it used to be. So you have to constantly evolve yourself by simple conversations with leadership or just listening to what they're talking about when they do town halls or whatever. But understand what is important to your boss or important to your company and be great at it, and you'll be a valuable employee for a very long time.
And what do you look for in managers when you have job openings or you're going to promote someone? What are the skills that stand out to you that really make you take notice?
You have to look at people skills first. And when you're interviewing someone, certainly there's questions that you can ask to try and find out what their relationship skills are, their caring skills. But if a person who's going to be in a leadership position isn't naturally drawn to working with other people on a team and to helping other people grow and develop, you're going to fail with that individual. They can have many other skill sets, but if people don't like them, then you're going to have problems. So you got to start with the relationship skills. You then try and discern honesty and integrity, in that if somebody is honest and has high level of integrity, people will follow them. And if they have to figure out, are they really telling the truth or not, they won't want to follow them. And then the broad term is leadership skills. And Kim Guthrie always talks about an executive presence. And when you're looking for leaders, you can feel it. You can feel that individual that believes who they are is meant to work with people in the right way and help people achieve their goals and help the company achieve the goals of the company as well.
Kurt, obviously your focus is on the content side, which is critical to all of us, whether we are in senior leadership roles or on the sales and marketing side. But a lot of local on-air programming and talent, those positions are not guaranteed anymore. So what do we need on the content side to be focused on to make sure that we can continue to make an important contribution to this business?
It's funny when we talk about this. When I was on the air for 17 years, I started in a small market in Wisconsin. My career started to get traction in about the early 80s. And along about that time, I said, you know, really local radio is really, it's over. There were reasons for this. There was country at that time washed out of urban cowboy, and the articles were dire. It was like, that's the end of country. Country was the biggest format during urban, therefore radio was going down. And Top 40 was over, and everything was over. And so I, at that time, I think what we need to do right now, and talking to all the people that are in programming in the room, if there are two groups of you. There are the veterans, and there are the people who are newer in the business. So here's what I would say. If you're a veteran in the business, I would adapt your skills really quickly. I would if you're not in a place where the company provides it, find it, or get to a company that does, and learn about how to connect with people, because that's all that radio has ever been, is storytelling and connecting with people through those stories. So adapt those skills so that you can leverage the incredible amount of skill and experience you've learned in the greatest audio medium in the history of the world for the last 100 years. And the best storytellers in the world are on radio. So you've got that. Now leverage that across platforms. If you're new in the business and you're hearing the same things, local radio's done, it's over. Yes, it's way different, but it also was in the 80s. I mean, we had such threats as MTV, that was going to kill, it killed the radio star. The Sony Walkman, that was the end. And many other challenges that have been documented over the years. But if we stay local, there's going to be a need for hosts that can connect with the community and activate them and help the companies monetize them. And so this is the tack I took early in my career. Our radio's going down, it's not cool anymore, nobody listens, it's going down. I said, you know what, if it's going down, I'm gonna learn all I can right now and parlay that into something else. So I was bothering people, bugging people to mentor me and asking all the dumb questions and hanging around at the radio station and learning everything I can and offering to do things. I don't think any of that's changed. I think now it's more needed than ever. So I'm really a glass half full guy. And I see tremendous opportunity in change, and Lord knows we've got a lot of change now. So if radio is going to stay relevant, it's going to need to be fueled by people like you that can connect with community. That's what it will always be, a differentiator for radio.
There was a session yesterday on technology, and I went to that session. Admittedly, the room was not well attended, you know, I go to the Consumer Electronics Show every year, and I try to stay up. I will tell you, within 5 minutes, I was totally cross-eyed because I thought, what in the heck are they talking about? And I felt so dislocated in a way. But it's changing what we all do. So how do we keep up? And what is the best way for us to understand how technology, and it comes in so many different forms, but how do we really educate ourselves and stay up to make, because that is the future of what we're doing. Ginny?
Well, thanks a lot. I decided some years ago that I don't have to understand how the technology works. I personally have to understand how the listener relates to our brands and our personalities and, you know, what we're doing in the community. Thankfully, I've got people that can keep track of that stuff, because really, a lot of it's noise. And think of all the things that have kind of come and gone in the last 5 years that, you know, we thought were going to be a big part of what we do, and now they've gone by the wayside. So I think to just let things settle and the stuff that's going to rise, and you were really brave to go to that session.
But that's a challenge for all of us in this room as well, what you talk about, that there are things we thought were going to stick, and it didn't. It becomes expensive, and we might decide that we're going to take a direction, and it isn't the right direction. You know, Bill, how do you make these decisions?
Like Jenny, I realized I'm not the individual anybody wants making a technology decision. We have really smart people in our company that are drawn to it. I think it's an important message that it's not just young people that understand and adapt to the technology. There are people across the entire workforce spectrum that it just clicks. They just get it and they adjust. And we cannot, as a business, ignore it. We have to be there, we have to test it out, but we also need to be willing to pull back from it if it's not going to pan out. But there are some things that stick. I don't believe there should be any locally produced radio show today that doesn't engage Instagram and Facebook at the very least. You have to do that, and maybe YouTube comes in on how you're doing those things. But as a company, you have to commit that you're going to study it. It just may not be us that's studying it, and you're going to adapt as needed.
So we're all operating in a multifaceted media landscape, which has really changed everything. So from your perspective, how has your focus changed on the business? And then how have your company's long-term goals changed because of that focus? And Kurt, we'll start with you.
Well, Town Square started 10 years ago with the idea that the spot business was going to change drastically, so we wanted to be on multi-platform. So we tried a lot of things.
And when you say the spot business, you're talking about from a revenue standpoint,
right.
Just selling commercials on the radio. Okay.
Right, exactly. So the premise at the beginning was to create a multi-platform company, and that, you know, in 2010, that things weren't as clear as they are now. So we very early on had a horse in every race and worked on everything, and have evolved that to really find. And social media, really, remember, was just kind of coming along in 2010. It's hard to remember that, but now with social media and the ways we have to connect, it's incredible. And so we've evolved over those 10 years to figure out what really matters and honed in on that, because you can't do everything all the time. To your point, it's a lot, but we are where our listeners are, going back to our philosophy that radio is our DNA, it's our core business, it will always be our differentiator, it is what drives all the other platforms. So what's really taken shape is a philosophy that our great DJs, who have incredibly loyal relationships in their communities, get online, get on socials, create video, whatever they're doing, podcasting that so many are developing now, and connect with people from the radio brand on those. I think that has evolved. That's probably the thing that's evolved most over the last 10 years is a philosophy of, it's always been getting in front of the listeners for our business in whatever was in vogue in the day. Right now, you have so many tools that certainly weren't available when I was on the air that DJs can use, and the smart ones are really using that to connect with people, create a huge online fan base that does feed back into Nielsen results.
Ginny, you're with a family-owned company with an unbelievable legacy. And you have a lot of flexibility that not all companies have. But how has your focus changed and your goals for the long term of your company based on the changing marketplace?
Well, it's kind of a moving target from day to day or quarter to quarter. Our company was started in 1923 by my grandfather with one AM radio station. The newspapers tried to put him out of business, you know, because they saw that as competitive. And when I think of the progression of our company, I think there's never been a more exciting time in our business than there is right now. To think of, you know, all the opportunity that we have to connect with listeners, to super serve advertisers, to including digital offerings. We've got a very robust and growing digital agency that is, you know, operational in all of our markets. We've got investments in Podcast One and other kind of ancillary businesses, and we're measuring a lot more metrics than we used to measure. You know, we used to measure AQH and top line and bottom line, and now there's downloads and there's engagement scores and there's blah, 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 blah. And again, thank goodness I've got a lot of people that know what all that means. But I think there's never been a more dynamic and exciting time in our business than there is right now. But we really have to embrace the new technologies and the new platforms and the new ways to tell stories and connect with people. And I, you know, especially in the Twin Cities, I get out and get to listener events. People are deeply engaged, deeply passionate about what we do and who we are and what we care about. And so I feel very good about the future. And we try not to get hung up on the frustrations of the day.
Erica, I have some great questions from the audience. if I
Excellent.
may.
Okay, Judy, let's hear them.
Okay, great. There's a lot of questions around Mark Ramsey's presentation, research presentation yesterday. So despite your comments, Mark Ramsey's research yesterday reported that local doesn't matter to the listener. Are his findings wrong?
First of all, was anyone in that session? No, I'm asking up here.
Show of hands.
I saw it.
No. I was driving through a blizzard to get here.
Oh, yeah.
I'm from Florida.
Yep.
I've never driven
Bill
in snow.
drove in snow
It
for
was
the
so
first time
cool.
yesterday.
I was driving into snow.
Well,
I did
Kurt,
see
you
the
were
study.
there.
Yeah.
So how do you respond? That's a great question, because one of the things that came out of the research yesterday was Mark was saying basically it doesn't matter.
So here's the thing. The context of that was not. It's not that listeners will say, "Well, I have to have local," but we have to create local as a differentiator, and it does matter to them. It's how you. It does depend on how you ask them. If we aren't local, we have no differentiator, and we provide vital services and information and the things that the other audio mediums just can't provide. What doesn't matter to the listener is, and what's really important about radio evolving and being available on multiple platforms is it doesn't matter where they get it. So if all the towers are gone in 10 years and they're getting it all through streaming, our local brands will still be there if we do our jobs right, and many people are moving forward into that. And we certainly formed our company on the listeners want to get audio entertainment wherever the easiest place is to get it. And we need to make sure that our local brands are there so that it's relevant to them or that it's available to them easily. The biggest thing for that is being available in the dashboard. We have branded apps for all of our radio stations, and we do that so that when the connected cars, all of them that have rolled off the assembly lines for the past 4 years are connected cars. And when they plug in that iPhone or that Android, you got to be there. And that local radio station needs to be there. To make sure that it doesn't become totally irrelevant to people, we need to be easy to find. And it's on us to make sure that our content is compelling enough so that people still search it out as one of their options.
Right. Now, Bill, I know you weren't there, but I know your company does a tremendous amount of research. So how do you respond to that?
So, his research is what it says. The research we do, especially on our news and talk stations, actually demands local. The biggest problem the national syndicated shows have is they don't allow local stations to be local, and we've talked at length with them about that. Our listeners on a news and talk station, and I think it carries over to the FM music stations because people have just blended them together, they want to know the traffic. They want to know the top stories in the market, what's going on. They want to know what the weather is going to be. It comes through loud and clear in everything we do. But I have a story about local that I think really shows how what he's saying is wrong. Judy Lake, and you'll know this, our Houston country station goes to the rodeo every year and sets up for the full month. And we have a trailer that we set up and we broadcast from there. And I was there last year just watching the interaction. And there was a woman standing back, and then she went and talked, and then she stood back, and I ended up standing next to her and got talking about why she's here and what she's doing and this. And she said, "This is really important to me." And she had her daughter with her. She said, "I have my daughter with me. A week ago, my husband died, and I haven't done anything in the week. And I wanted to get my daughter out and come here to be with your radio station because it's really important to me." She does not decide to do that if we have not spent years of being important to her, important to the community, and giving her a feeling of connection. This is one isolated instance, but it's the power of what we can do, and it shows why local matters if you do it right. If you just mail it in and voice track and call yourself a local radio station, it's right, local doesn't matter. But when you impact the community, you impact individuals, I believe that everyone on this stage and everyone in this room will go down fighting that local matters.
Judy?
In your opinion, what does radio look like in 2030?
Jenny?
Oh, great. Well, what does radio look like in 2030? I hope that radio looks a lot like it does today. Again, working with the tentpole model with radio by whatever delivery system, whether it's a tower or a streaming service, what people hear from that brand being at the center of engagement on lots of other platforms and in lots of other forms, podcasting being one, YouTube being another. That's my hope, but I don't know what it's going to be next week, to be honest with you. But back to local, I think local is a word. And if we don't make local relevant, and we don't also deliver local in the best, highest quality way, it doesn't matter. To storytelling, to engagement, to relating to the listener and kind of meeting them where they are is what's key. And we can't take local for granted, for sure. And we need to make it meaningful in ways that matter to the listener, not necessarily to us.
Kurt?
Yeah, I think in some ways it will look the same. I think radio's differentiator, and we use the word local a lot. The reason is that's what radio has that all the others don't. I think we'll evolve the ways that we create it with all the new tools that we have. I think there's a whole new generation of people that are learning this art through podcasting, through user-generated content across all the social media that are going to evolve. And we have always found the talent and brought them into radio if they're great storytellers. So you're going to see a lot of that same thing. What is going to be different, I think, is, to Ginny's point, who knows? Because it's evolving so fast. And anybody that tells you they knows, they don't know. So I think we all ride the wave over the next 10 years and figure it out as things change. But what will be different, I think, is that people now, they view radio as one of the options, right? And it's been that way all through my career. There have been a new option, a new option, a new option. Certainly streaming is the biggest and easiest new option for people to use, but it's a library service. It is not an entertainment platform the way radio is. And the good news is that although, to Mark's point, there are lots of different ways for people to get things on demand, people think of them all as radio. Really, radio defines audio entertainment to them. So if we're smart, we'll take our local brands, our local people, and make sure that they're available easily across platforms. And I can foresee a time where a lot of the big local brands around the country will be available in the dashboard across a variety of medium, because people do want it. They need local information, particularly where we, in the town square markets, we have morning shows with, it's not uncommon for them to have 20 shares or even more on some of the bigger shows. They're the center of the community. There's always a market for that. The clients need that. They need a trusted talent to sell their products, and we need a great local talent to drive it. Otherwise, it is just a jukebox, and if you are just a jukebox, there really isn't a differentiator. So local talent will remain in 2030, and I just think how we deliver it will evolve as technology makes it easier and easier for us to put it across platforms.
Bill?
First of all, everything they said. But when you look at 2030, you look out and go 10 years. And if you look back 10 years, you can think how much has changed. But if you look 2030, why will people be that much different? Why will a town not want local information, local music, local personalities? Why would they not want a business that will create concerts or other kinds of events to entertain them and make their life better? That's going to still be there. So it is ours to continue to own. If we run our business properly, we will evolve, but we'll still exist at that point being that provider. We already are first in. So it's ours to give up if we run our business poorly, and someone else will come and take it. But I think we have the ability to continue to evolve our businesses, to grow. We have to figure out how to make profit while we do this. There's many avenues in this evolution that are just not profitable, and we can't do that and survive. But as we figure that out and go forward, I believe that 10 years from now, the demand in a local market will still be. Provide me something that makes me feel good about my community, that entertains me, that allows me to connect with and have an association, and it is ours to own 10 years from now.
I would just like to add something to this discussion that we're seeing at the REB. By the end of next year, technology is changing the way marketers will be connecting with consumers. So their goal is to have an audio connection with their specific products, something like 25% of all companies by next year. So what that means are things like banking. When you go to Google now, you're typing in something, but they're working on the technology that you're going to go to Google and it's going to be an audio question. When you connect your bank on your smartphones, it's going to be an audio connection, and the keyboard is going away. That's one of the things that's happening in technology.
Well, meetings are going to get a lot more productive.
Right. But I bring it up because we're in that business, and I hope that we're focused on it enough, which means branding is going to be more important than ever. Because as people are going to connect with us through an audio way, whatever the platform, we're going to have to make sure that what they're asking for, they're going to get quickly. And we've already had some bumps with smart speakers. So I would suggest we start to really, really focus on that because we're there. And the other thing I want to make a point, we talk about being storytellers. Advertisers are now calling themselves storytellers, which I find a very interesting switch, that as they're promoting their products and services, they're looking at themselves as storytellers and wanting to connect with the consumer in a way that's meaningful, and that's what we talk about. So I think as the rest of the world is going to be using a communication vehicle that we've had for 100 years, this gives us such an amazing opportunity to almost leapfrog it and grab it. So I hope that because that's going to be a major change. So I just wanted to mention that. We're going through a census this year. And I think we're going to see some dramatic changes in what the face of our countries and local communities look like. Are you thinking about that, and what should we be thinking about from our product standpoint? Bill?
My first reaction was to say the census doesn't matter, and that's a glib comment. That's not appropriate. What the census says about the makeup of our country is extremely important, but none of it matters if we don't have a system through Nielsen or someone else that can go out, engage audiences, and understand who's listening in a way that we feel represents what we're doing better. I think they can show whatever the population is. If you still can't go out and reach them and understand exactly what's really going on, census can change all at once. We got a problem before the census.
All I can do is echo him, echo Bill.
It's nothing changes, right? Nielsen measures whoever's there. And we have markets that typify that. Across Texas, the Hispanic population in the market's growing. The comp is growing greatly across those markets. We have other markets that are getting older, some that are getting younger. And the census is going to be fascinating and incredible. But the challenge will be the same. Who's there? Create a radio station that means something to them and build it for them. And you're going to see I think you'll see change, because it's really the only way to make money at this business is find the audience, super serve them, entertain them. And, Bill, I kind of take you to mean it doesn't matter what the census says, because it'll just tell us who's there. We'll go get them.
We got to go get them.
Exactly. That's right. Whatever it is. We'll go find them. It's just like when a ratings book comes out. If you're not having an audience on a station, you change and you find the audience.
Well, we've all switched formats because we saw the population of our markets change, and it was an opportunity. That's what radio does. That's what serving the community is. If your community changes, then you should switch in order to take advantage of that and find a new market to serve. But the technology part that again, to whatever the census says, technology keeps delivering to the listener our product without any way for Nielsen to register it, whether it's Bluetooth, whether it's earbuds, however people are doing it. And until we fix that, we're not getting a true gauge of the audience of radio right now in America today. And this isn't slamming Nielsen. That's a complex problem they're trying to solve. It's not simple. But we have to work as an industry with them in order to figure it out, or find other ways to get information that can be married to Nielsen and cumulatively give the world a better look at our audience, which I believe is a lot larger than is being recorded right now.
And we're missing people because of the multi-platform listening. And I know we hear from an advertiser standpoint, we want one number. And that's a hard number. Data is something we all hear about, data and attribution. What should we be thinking about in that area, and what does the future look like for our industry and data?
Well, we have opportunities to analyze audiences like we never have before. And I think with all the advances in analytics, we can offer advertisers new insights that they just have never imagined before. And we all kind of, have relied on Nielsen pretty much for that. But now with new tools, we're also able to do them on our own. And especially with all the online interaction we have with people, we can really see who's interested in what. We can see what our listeners are interested by, what websites they're going to. We can see what they're interacting with on our websites, and we can come to an advertiser with that. That's just one small example of how data analytics are going to transform how we assess our audience as well, because we can ascertain their interests if we're smart about it. We can find out what they're interested in, what they interacted with, ultimately what bit on the morning show caused them to go to a website to interact or to go find that product. That's pretty powerful to walk into an advertiser with. It's pretty powerful for the PD to walk into the morning show and say, you know what, that bit yesterday, Look what happened with this. That's real. That's not us guessing. That's not an opinion. It kind of ends all discussion when you say, here it is. That, to me, absolutely catapults radio into a place where we keep coming back to local. How much better can we make local when we know exactly? When the morning show goes in on Monday morning and they say, you know what, I know what my listeners are thinking about this morning, and we're there. Like, we can show them what they're interacting with, what they're searching on, all of those things, and we can walk into morning shows, and then the phone lines light up. Then we walk into the client and say, listen to this. We were talking about canoeing, and we were talking about fishing. And you can walk into the sports shop and say, you ought to be on this station. Our listeners are way into this. Obviously, some of those are elemental, but I think it's fundamental for the business.
So we should be really embracing this. This is good news for us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I can't believe our time is coming to an end shortly. What excites you most about being in this business?
Well, I'm really enjoying my first CRS.
All right.
That's for sure. It won't be my last.
Right.
It's really fun to be in and amongst a bunch of people that are super passionate and excited about what they do, and congratulations to all of you who make this format so dynamic and so engaged and so exciting. I'm excited about new personalities coming into the business. I'm excited about engaging with listeners and communities on different levels. I continue to feel good. I think one of the things on the flip side of that, maybe that is a question you have, everybody is so busy. I hope that everybody finds time in their day and in their week to work on opportunities, because I think all of us as managers and leaders spend a lot of our time putting out fires and dealing with problems. And when you were just programming one station or managing one station, you had a lot more opportunity to think about opportunities and how to grow your business. And I think that takes a conscious effort in today's environment.
Mm-hmm. Bill, what are you most excited about?
So I geek here. I become a geek. I love.
You're always a geek.
I know. I got in the business as a promotions director. I love. What I get excited about is today, no matter what they say about radio, no matter what they say about the audience, is that we can move people to do things. And we've all been to the concerts that we do or the events that we do. And when I talk to my staff, I refer to it as moments of truth, in that if we put on an event, someone is going to make a decision that says, tonight, I'm going to entertain myself and my family or whoever by going to this event that this radio station put on. And that is our moment of truth. It's just like when their finger goes towards the button and they're going to pick your station, the moment of truth is it better be damn good when they get there, because they think their life is going to get better by making that change. But when it comes to moving people and creating events, I still to this day love to go to the events that our stations put on and walk through the crowd and look, or stand on the back of the stage and watch the crowd, because everybody there is there because of us. And we should never forget that. Whenever someone tries to beat our business down, says what we can't do, you should think of the events that you've been to that were promoted by your station and only by your station or stations, and realize that we had that many people make a decision that their life was going to be better today by going to the event that we put on. I think that's as powerful as it can possibly be.
Love that. Kurt? Love that.
Yeah, right. That is so on. We move people, and we make them laugh, we make them cry, we make them angry, we make them think, and we are the medium that does that because we have personalities who create that. I think what I love about what we do, what I still love about radio, is that community connection. We move people on a local basis. And when I'm in a market and I go to lunch with a DJ and people walk up to him and say hi, when I'm at an event and you see people streaming in to a festival, to a music event, when you do a charity event, when you do a Fill the Van event, and they line up at 6 in the morning and it's 10 below, and they keep coming and they keep coming. When you look at St. Jude, and we do more and more every year, and we're approaching $1 billion in money raised for St. Jude's, and not nationally, locally. That comes through local radio stations. That is not slowing down. So a lot of key metrics are looking good for local radio, and as long as we keep doing our job and the people in this room keep doing their job, that is going to continue.
All right, so as we come to a close, I always like to close sessions this way. Ginny, you sort of answered it, but we're going to have you re-answer it. And Kurt, we're going to start with you. What is the one thing, piece of advice you have for every single person in this room when they go back to their office that you would like to make sure that everyone in this room does? Kurt?
If you're a manager, I think the most important thing you can do is hire the right people. And best advice I ever got was, don't hire talented people. Hire good people who are talented. And that's the difference. If you're going to work, find somebody who believes, who cares, who believes in the future, and who wants to grow people. You can't make a more important decision. So work for the right people, hire the right people.
Thank you. Ginny?
Hold your head high, love what you do if you don't get out, and keep evolving and embracing opportunities that come your way.
Bill?
Be honest, even if it hurts you. Every day, the people around you are making judgments about you by the way you handle yourself and how truthful you are, and can they trust you. The trust that you have from other people and your integrity are priceless, and you earn it every day by being honest, even if it hurts you, and if you give it away, it takes a whole lot of time to earn it back.
All right, so we're going to make a pact. It's 2020. We were asked the question about 2030. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say we will all be back here in 2030.
I'm going to hold you to that, Erica.
Still, be careful what we ask for, right? But to just
You're going to need a ramp for me.
Yeah, but to just prove how great this business is. Please join me in thanking these leaders.